Hello, welcome to the Passively Managed video course. Today we are going to be talking about budgeting and specifically zero-based budget. If you watched the first video, that was all about tracking your spending. Hopefully you've been able to do that and implement it, and you kind of have a better idea of where your money is going. And now we are going to use a budget to tell that money where we want it to go. So to explain, a zero-based budget basically means that every dollar you earn has a place to go in a zero-based budget. So what that means is, for example, if you earn $1,000 a month, we are going to break down each spending category, fixed expenses as well as discretionary spending, and we are going to assign a percentage to that category. So in this example, and these are just random made up numbers, but if you earn $1,000 a month and your rent is $250 a month, then your rent percentage would be 25% of your budget. And so we will go down each single line item in that way and figure out, what percentage of your budget is going to these costs. So for example, dining out, you might spend $150 a month doing that. So that would be 15% of this budget. If you spend $300 on groceries, that would be 30%. The key to this is, number one, tracking your spending so you have these numbers, and then knowing your income as well, because that is going to be the number that all of this is based on. Say you're paid every week $1,250 at the end of the month, that would be $5,000 of income. And then to get the percentage, you would say, okay, well, my rent is $1,000 a month divided by 5,000 of income, that gives you 20%. So your rent expense is now 20% of the budget. And we'll do that with each category that you spend money on, and then you'll see, and you can put this in a pie chart or a graph or just have the numbers on a spreadsheet, but you'll see in a really kind of interesting way the percentage that each expense takes up of your total income of your budget. I think it just assigns more accountability to where you're spending, and it takes away some of those excuses that's like, well, I can't save money, there's no way I can do this. But when you see where your money is actually going, you're more empowered to make those changes. A lot of times when I walk through this exercise with people, the percentage is actually greater than 100%, which means basically that you're living beyond your means. And what you can do, you don't have to panic, but what you can do there is, okay, let's evaluate each category. Say you have your entertainment category and it makes up 30% of your budget, and say you're over budget, you're coming out to over 100% once you've calculated those percentage for each of your spending categories. You say, okay, well, I don't need to get overwhelmed here, but what if I just took away 5% of that budget? So say, you're working off $1,000 a month, but you're spending $300 of it on miscellaneous entertainment items like dining out or drinking or going to the movies or whatever it is you have in that category. Say, okay, well, instead of $300, why don't I budget for $250? So I've reduced that now by 5%. You can then take that 5% and allocate it somewhere else if you're not over budget. If you are over budget, the easiest way to get under budget is to go to each item and think of creative ways that you could reduce those expenses. Your fixed expenses like your rent or your car insurance or health insurance or your power bills, some of those things, they're gonna be hard to really move. They're kind of set. But your discretionary spending is really where you can take aim at a lot of these things. Instead of going out to eat and spending $200 a month on that, we can make it a goal to only spend $150 on that. And all of a sudden you have some extra percentages to use in other categories. But if you go down the line and take 2% even, 5% here, 10% there, you're gonna start knocking that down. And the first goal is to get yourself at 100%. So if you're coming in and you're 120%, you really need to do some work to figure out where we can cut back to get to 100%. Once you're at 100%, you can continue to do that and say, okay, well, we've got, at this point, we have a zero-based budget where every dollar has a place to go, and we're right at 100%. But then maybe you want to, your goal is to get yourself out of debt. And debt, maybe it's 10% of the budget or 5% of the budget. You can go down those line items again and say, okay, well, shopping, maybe 10% of my budget is shopping, and I like to get clothes or shoes or whatever it is. Every month I spend, say $100 on shopping. Well, what if I spent $75 a month on shopping? So that goes from 10% if you're making $1,000 a month to 7.5%. And now I can take that additional 2.5% and I can put that towards my debt. And now instead of paying 5% a month on debt, I'm paying 7.5%. And something really amazing happens on the other side of that. Once you've made that commitment and you do this for, a little while, maybe 6 months, 9 months, a year, you'll be surprised and you knock it out. And then all of a sudden there's 30% or 20% or 15% extra in your budget. And then that could go to things like travel or entertainment or shopping. Better yet, what I would suggest is making a category that a lot of folks just ignore, which is savings. And then say all of a sudden now you're saving 20% of your income every month. And then after another 6 or 7 months, you've got an emergency fund. You've got investments, you've got cash set away for your bigger goals, or just to have that extra cushion. And again, these videos are being filmed in March of 2020, which is, we're right in, I hope we're in the middle of the coronavirus pandemic. I don't know when this will end, but I will tell you that having a safety net, having an emergency fund is super valuable right now. So when these things come up in life, a lot of times we don't have control over it, and all of a sudden it's, well, my income has become limited, or I'm just not able to work, I have a disability, or my car needs to be repaired. Whatever it is, you have that money set aside for it. So these things that happen in life, and they always happen, it doesn't matter who you are, when they come up, you're prepared for it, and it's not such an emergency. It's something that you can deal with. And these are the tools that will help you get to that point where when things do hit the fan, you have an option, you have recourse. I will link to some resources here where you can start on your zero-based budget. Again, you should do this step after tracking your income, so you have the numbers, because if you don't have the numbers, you can't plug anything into these spreadsheets to give you the percentage. And that's where you need to be to start your budget. And then you can go line by line, examine your spending, figure out where you can cut back, and use that money to allocate towards other line items that get you closer to your goals. I'm looking forward to making more of these videos so that we can all have the resources we need to get to our goals in life and also weather any storms that are thrown at us. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.